Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. I am your host, Veenu Keller, along with my brother from another mother, Chuck Hogan. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores and iOS Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and also all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So I'm just excited to be doing this with you, Chuck. Hi.
Hello. It's such a pleasure to be here, Veenu. I've been waiting so long for us to do this inaugural show and to get started. First of all, thank you. I love and appreciate you. And we're going to have some fun. This is just amazing. So thank you, my sister.
I love it. So, Chuck and I have been contemplating, this is our first show that we actually are going to be doing. It's going to be every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, like we said. And we really wanted to start off a great topic because, Live Now with Veenu and Chuck is really about what we experience on a day-to-day basis, whether it's things that we hear in the news, whether it's things we experience in our own life, things that we hear with our clients. Because as, strategists, Chuck and I hear a lot from different people with different filters. And, there's a lot that Chuck and I believe that we don't coach from theory. We coach from the experiences in our lives and the lives that we've been honored and grateful to touch. And so today we thought, a great topic that's something that's coming up in a lot. Literally, I just got off a call 2 hours ago with a client who was going through the same exact topic. So I told her, tune into my show tonight because you might get some more on this. But so what Chuck and I really wanted to talk to you all about today was, are you faking it to make it? What does it really look like to have that imposter syndrome and to, just really feel that you have imposter syndrome? And I'm just going to start the question out because somebody asked me the other day, they're like, actually, it was my kids. They're like, what's imposter syndrome? And I was like, how do you explain this to 10-year-olds, imposter syndrome? So here's what I explained it. And Chuck, I'd love to hear your definition. I explained imposter syndrome is acting like you're one way, like one identity, and letting the world see that identity. But when they're not watching, you show up as someone else. So not being true to your own identity. How would you explain it?
It's in this world of social media, we have all these different examples as to role models. And what I will say, that what the perception of a role model is, if it's lip fillers and augmentation, or if it's huge muscles, or frosting the tips of your hair, or putting tattoos all over your face and pretending you're an island boy, whatever the case might be, there's a scenario where people are losing their identity and losing sense of self in the aspiration of trying to be like someone else. And imposter syndrome is probably one of the areas where you'll find your weakest state management, where if you were to actually measure yourself and go, am I feeling strong? Am I feeling congruent? Am I feeling authentic? No, you're faking it till you make it. You right. Believe that you're so broken that you have to be like someone else or take on the persona of someone else. And here's the crazy part about it. It's not aspirational. It's a substitution of you.
Right.
So you're basically being an imposter to your own identity. And the consequence of it is that not only is it incongruent, not only is it a bold-faced lie, but in some ways too, because there's different levels of it. There are some people who do it in subtle nuances, like at a party, they'll have imposter syndrome, but in every other place of their life, they'll be their consistent, authentic self. For some reason, they feel in that social setting that they have to take on this identity. And now they get known as the party person or the fun guy or, funny gal. And you're like going, oh, is that really them?
Right.
And then you meet them in another setting. You're like going, wait, there's no way. That must be their doppelganger. Or, they have a twin, right? Or are they a triplet or a quadruplet? Because I've seen like 4 different freaking personalities. I don't know who this person is. Well, guess what? Neither do they.
Right.
And so to your point, like for a 10-year-old, I would say it's being someone that you're pretending to be
Yep.
and not who you are.
Right. And I think that this is so important to first identify what is imposter syndrome because, you know, one of our mutual mentors and friends, Joseph McClendon III, he created this talk on thieves of your dreams. Like, what are the thieves of our dreams? And the first one is imposter syndrome. You know, it's wanting everyone to see you as one way, but you're really not. And so now I want to talk about what are the consequences, you know, and
Mm,
like this is where I feel that this is where the talk's going to get real now because I'm going to say this. I was just having this conversation. I went out to dinner on Saturday night with a friend of mine, and we hadn't seen each other in months. And so, to say the least, it took about 5 hours to get caught up where we're at in our lives and what we're all doing and stuff. And we started reminiscing about my past
mm,
and how, you know, I was joking with my husband. I'm like, yeah, if I'm not back by 10, you can meet me at the club. You know, I'm going to drop it like it's hot. It's time. And he's looking at me. He's like, who's going to drop it like it's hot? And I'm like, I mean, why not? I mean, I can be that person again. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, I'll probably be seeing you roll up here at 10. I'm like, probably. It's past my bedtime at that time now. But while her and I were talking about this, we were also talking about like how far I've come in my life. You know, I met her at a time where it was about 2007, 2008, and I was just coming into the personal growth. Like I started to understand personal growth, I guess, at that point, because I didn't even know that existed up until now. And we were talking about how I was suicidal. And here I was the director, I was her boss. So I was the director of the mental health institution I worked for. And she's like, you know, I never knew that about you. She's like, we would
mm,
go to work, you would be smiling. You know, we'd go out after work, we would go to the clubs, you know, we would drink, we would have a good time, you know, like she's like, I stayed at your house. Like I would
mhm,
stay the weekends at your house. Like, are you sure? Like, are you sure that was you? And I said, oh, the lies that we can tell others and not
mm,
just others, but ourselves, right?
yep,
It's like looking in the mirror or not looking in the mirror. Because when I was like, oh, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, I was so depressed. Well, that's a lie. I couldn't look in the mirror because I didn't know what I was looking for or who I was looking at. But I definitely knew how I needed to be once I walked out that door.
mhm,
And
yes,
so again, you know, imposter syndrome, like being something I wanted the world to see me as, and no one really knowing how, and I say in quotes, depressed, right? Because I really don't feel like I was depressed, but that's the best way to explain it right now, inside of who I was. And it was
right.
that loss of, you know, I wouldn't even know what it would like, who I would have been if I was authentic, because I didn't know who I was.
Yes, there's a deep-seated challenge, and it's when it's in the darkness of being alone by yourself, and all of a sudden it's like you comes out, and I'm like, oh,
Hello.
who is that? Yeah, it's like, wow, it's pitch dark, and yet I see myself fully,
Right.
and I don't know that I like who I see, and the consequence is I'd rather be anybody else than myself in that moment.
Yes.
And so for some folks, to your point, Vinu, like they know the way they need to look to go out to feel like they're accepted, or that we'll just say that Debbie Dancer has this identity. And why? Because at that point, it's less about us and more about how we feel other people will respond to that persona in that moment. And that, will we be accepted? Will we be part of the group? Will we look the part? You know, we're gregarious, we're having libations and drinking and dancing and moving. It's like, oh, I don't need to be me. I just need to be lost in this space, in this fantasy. Man, there's two sides to this. There's a level of escapism, but if we were actually to measure your energetic center and the level of connection, the people you'll connect to, it's very artificial because
Yes.
people like people who are like who?
We
Like them.
right.
And so when we're being like someone else, we actually think that that's a way of showing a simulation and they know that we like them because we're being like them. And in the truth, at the end of the night, you come home and crash. And you don't go, oh man, that was the best night ever. You go, that was a lot of work.
Right.
And although it was fun-ish, when you come down off of that high of pretend and make believe, it's like, wow. The next day you might find yourself dragging. The next day you might find yourself a little bit more depleted. Because the truth was it took so much energy to hold that persona. So I go, congratulations, you just won an Emmy or an Oscar because you were acting the part.
Mm-hmm.
But
100%.
let's think about that for a second. If you're an actor, it's your job. And your job is to be able to tell a story through make believe and by assimilating and taking on someone else's personality. It's a role. It's not you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you don't share some of those attributes. You can share knowledge, humor, brevity, humor, fun, excitement. But where it's coming from, and if it's forced, then it's not you.
Right.
That's faking it till you make it. There's no belief in that. It's not believing till you achieve.
But that's what people say, right? Like I even remember getting into the personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
And even now to this day, some of the mentors out there, they're like, just fake it till you make it. Say this affirmation, run in place, say this affirmation, and you will be it. Well, at what point am I like, I have the best body, I'm so great, and I'm running on the treadmill. So when I get off the treadmill, am I like the best body now? Like, because I mean, I really believed it when I got off the treadmill, I was going to be that way. It didn't work.
Right.
It didn't change the shallow how, right? I call it the shallow how theory, that just because I see it that way, now I see everything that way with the rose colored glasses. You got to take the glasses off, you
Right.
know. And I think you nailed it when you said depleted, because we get depleted in so much in our life. And I think that, you can definitely attest to this as well, that we get so busy giving the best of us and we only give the rest of us to ourselves. And unfortunately, there's the rest of what? There's nothing left to give. And we're so depleted because we have been acting, as you said, for how long to be this. And here's the deal. It's that we're so afraid if you find out that I'm really like this,
Oh,
then what happens?
the exposure is like to say that someone got a peek in the kimono is an understatement. This is like the emperor's new clothes. It's like you're sitting there buck naked and going, it's drafty, and yet ego will keep you from wanting to have that exposure of vulnerability because somehow everyone else's external reference of you, everyone else's opinion of you, everyone else's attaboys or attagals mean more to you than how you actually feel in your own skin.
Right.
And so we don't want to be that disappointment. It's like, well, gosh, Veenu, you're a senior mentor strategist and you help people, you do turnarounds and you're the child whisperer and the parent whisperer. It's like, well, you should have all your stuff on lockdown. Or, hey, Chuck, you've been at this for 35 years and you've helped thousands of people. And, dude, really? Like, you have issues? I'm like, I have a PhD in screw ups. Are you kidding me? Like,
Right.
lifelong lesson learner. And the only way that you become a winner is if you actually embrace these things. Because the truth of the matter is, you'll learn more from any challenge you've ever taken on in your life than any accolade, than any, conquering that you've ever facilitated. And so you brought up a great point, and it's this ideology of my family and I deserve the best of me and not what's left of me. This concept of having, especially for guys, I'm so in awe of the feminine because my wife, as demure as she is, she has a limitless number of words in her word bank. Like legit, the woman could go on about anything forever. And I find myself at 25,000 words and being in sales and marketing and And as a strategist, I use a lot of languaging during the course of a day. And what I get to remember, it's not a have to, I get to, is that my best language, my best presence, my best me needs to be reserved for my family and myself. Otherwise, why am I working so hard? Why am I giving everybody the best of everything as Chuck Hogan or the best of Veenu Keller? It's like, can we just slow down for a moment to understand that in that appreciation, our loved ones want to connect and communicate with us?
Right. Right.
And that's a gift. That's an absolute gift. And why would I want to squander giving everything away to everyone else when the people who would give their very life for me and I would give my life for them, that I get to be the best of me and not what's left of me? That's a
Right.
choice. That's a decision.
But here's the challenge. Here's the challenge. Here's the real challenge. And this is just me being very vulnerable. And, just like I do on my other shows, I feel like the way that we learn is through our vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Always.
remember when I started this avenue of, you know what? I know my lane is parenting and child and parent relationship. Like I know that's my lane. That's what I'm going to fully pursue. I'm going to get out of all the distractions and I'm going to focus on this. And, one of my clients who, runs a school, I remember when she first told me years ago, she goes, yeah, your twins are not your walking, talking business card. And at first, of course, I didn't let it show that I was like taken back from it. I needed to be quick and witty because that's how she is. And I sat in my car and I'm like, am I in the wrong profession? Did
Mm.
someone just see me? Are they peeking under my kimono?
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so like my first response is, oh gosh, I got to get my kids straight. I got to get my kids straight.
Mm.
And then it dawned on me, Chuck, she's right. They're not. They're not my walking, talking business cards. They're my children. They're
Exactly.
the two people I get to influence and guide the best that I can in that moment. And guess what? Here's me whispering really loud to all the parents and kids out there. I screw up every day. Every day I screw up. Do I want the world to know that? Yep, because I'm saying it. And here's my declaration. You have to know I screw up because when you hire me to help you, I've walked down that road before. You
Absolutely.
know that what I give you, it's because either I experienced it myself or I experienced it with a client. And I'll tell you, when I have a parent calling me to tell me that she's concerned about my daughter, and because I'm a life coach, she doesn't know if she should tell me or not, there's an issue there.
Yeah.
Don't let my profession cloud who I am first, because I'm first her mom, then I'm a life coach. And right
Absolutely.
now, if my daughter's texting something inappropriate, yes, I'm mom right now, not a life coach. Take responsibility. And, I honor this parent because she says, if it was my daughter, I would want you to tell me, I would expect you to tell me. Now, do you expect me to tell you because I'm a mom, or do you expect me to tell you because I'm a life coach? Because I want to take off that identity in that moment and just be mom.
Right.
So expect me to tell you because I'm a mom and I'm concerned about what your daughter's going through. And I'm not even offering advice in that moment because I'm a mom. I am telling you that you need to know this because I'm concerned. And I thanked her. And then afterwards, I get a text going, gosh, I'm so glad you're okay with it. I was kind of concerned. I said, number one, we're moms. Don't ever be concerned about my reaction because that's not on you. That's on me, first of all.
Right.
Okay. And let me just tell you, I'm honored that you felt that you can come to me so I can support my daughter where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I think a lot of us, especially in the world that you and I met in, and we kind of grew up in, right? Like we grew up in that world, right? And there was an expectation to present ourselves one way, to be one way.
Yes.
And, you know, here, I guess the best motto is what we grew up here, like saying, don't ever let them see you cry. And I was so good at that, Chuck. Like my
Oh,
entire life, I was so good at don't ever let them see me cry. So what happens when I have to cry now? What happens when I have to tell everybody that just because I'm your child's coach does not mean I don't have my own issues at home that I'm dealing with. Like my husband and I, we've had a relationship coach for 2 years. When people look at mine and Brian's relationship, and I know you've seen me and Brian, most people would never think that Brian and I have any issues because what you see is what you get.
mm-hmm.
And we're not dealing with our problems out in public because we don't want to. We want to deal with them here. We want to learn how to communicate here. We want to go through our little falls on the ground and get each other back up. We want to go through the I hate you right now. I wish you would leave. We want to go through all of that here and resolve it here so we can present ourselves in authenticity when we're outside of our house.
It's dealing in clear communication with one another.
Yeah.
And I equate it to like streaking. My wife and I don't need to be running around emotionally nude in public in order to find the grace in each other, to
Yes.
be able to have that space where we connect and we can say, here's your robe, here's my robe. Thank you. We get to connect and communicate and look into each other's eyes and speak clearly to one another and saying, I apologize if I was rude, disconcerting, or if you felt dishonored by my actions or anything I stated or said. I love you dearly. And I know sometimes love's not enough. So what I will say is, please accept my apology as an honorable man who knows I've made mistakes and it won't be the last. Because to think that we're not fallible, that's part of the human condition. In fact, it's part of the privilege of being human. You're a human being, not a human doing. And oftentimes we don't expect anyone to do anything wrong, especially if we hold them in high esteem. Like, who do the coaches go to? Who do they talk to? And I go, well, we all need someone because we can't see our own scotomas. We can't see our own blind spots. So part of this is being able to identify. The other part is living in enough humility to not think that you have all the answers or to think that you're the one that has to be in charge of fixing everything. Because there's no fixing, because no one's to blame. There's no rule book about life. There is moral values and compasses. And you and I have had this discussion many times in the past, and that is you will do everything within the human condition to fulfill your needs. You need air, you need water, you need food, you need shelter, you need love and connection. And wars have been fought over love and connection. There have been dogmatic fights over, I believe this, you believe that. Oh, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. Okay. And the truth is, no one's right, no one's wrong. You have an opinion, you have a construct around what this looks like and feels like. And it's like, okay, then how do we find harmony?
Right.
Because there's no such thing as balance. There's no yin and yang where you're going to have a teeter-totter that's, because if you're standing on the middle of the teeter-totter, right? There's no movement. You can't measure this. That means there's zero progress.
Right.
And the universal rule is progress equals happiness. So I'd rather be on the highs and lows of life where now at least I'm not sitting in stasis where that's survival.
Well, here's the point, Chuck, with what you're saying, though. You wouldn't know you had a high until you had a low.
Exactly.
And the other thing, so here's what I really want to point out to our listeners. And this, again, just is my opinion. I think the biggest consequence that anyone can have from this imposter syndrome that you and I both have literally experienced ourselves in our life is victimhood.
Oh,
that is the worst place to be. And when you get there, it's the biggest gift when you get on the other side of it. Like, it's not being like, oh my God, I was the victim today because I had a pity party for 72 hours. If you need 72 hours to feel your own stuff, then take it.
yes.
Then take it. If you need, And people around you that love you need to know, first of all, I'm in this space of victimhood. That doesn't mean I need you to fix it. I probably feel really broken right now. I may preach to the world I'm not broken and no one's broken, but right now I'm walking through broken. Like I am broken. I
Mhm.
don't need anybody to fix me right now because I just need to sit in my stuff. And when you give me space to just acknowledge that, Veenu, I see you, I know you, and I know this is not you. And you allow me to vent that, yeah, this is me right now. You're right. You know what? I apologize. It is you right now. You're absolutely right. And just acknowledge what they're feeling versus saying, no, 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 you're not, because you're trying to pull them out of victimhood, but then you're going to pull them right back into imposter syndrome because they need an opportunity to distinguish the two themselves. And
Well, they, yeah,
that's
they
what
need to find equilibrium in themselves. The
you do.
challenge is that in that moment, there's nothing that you can say, there's nothing that you can do because it's not about you, it's
Correct.
about them. And when someone says, I need time, your fear, your not theirs, your fear may so supersede their need for certainty and security that you will take actions based on what you perceive as being a threat to themselves or others. And the truth of the matter is that it's probably not true.
Mm.
But when someone gets to that point where their energy has dropped so low that you're like, well, they're not making any sense. Well, you're right.
They're not.
And just have faith and trust that as much as you know this person, you go, they've never been this way before. I've never experienced this way before. And I go, well, unless you have proof that they're on some form of drug or some external frame of like alcohol or influence or something like that, where they are completely incapacitated. But if they're like going, listen, I need space and time, then my 2 cents would be honor them and make sure that they're okay. Now, how do you do that? You go, all I have and ask is this: make sure I can reach you on your phone and just promise to check in with me. Take as much time as you need. Because some people go, oh, I'm going on a retreat, or I'm going to a tropical island and I'm going to detox, or I'm going to ayahuasca. People
Or
go,
I'm
wait,
gonna kill myself. Like some people think, like I'm gonna go kill myself because in that moment we have to realize when we're in a state of depletion, absolute depletion is how we get to victimhood. By the way,
yes,
being an imposter or feeling like an imposter for so long in that moment depletes you, like you and I said, rapidly. Then we stack everything on it, right? And so we may say things in that moment because our emotions are very high. So what we're saying is not connecting to our intellect. And so I think you're right. I think that when people try to stop us, then because I've been there, you and I were just talking about this the other day. I have been there. It's like a caged animal. Like I'm going to do everything now to fight my way out because you're not hearing me.
and it's coming from a pure place. It's coming from a place of love and adoration and caring and concern. So there's no criticism. The challenge becomes is that, and this is the hardest part for all of us. So please listen to Veenu and I very clearly when we state this. Your model of the world is yours, and it's uniquely yours. And it's not
We need to
right.
do that again because like that is really so important.
It's huge. And again, people go, well, my model of the world. I said, yes, the lens with which you see and feel and hear everything that's going on, because in that moment, your emotions, it's no longer about we, it's about me. And as much as you're thinking we in relation to where your intent and motive is going, you're funneling and channeling everything through this very narrow filter at this time of fear and doubt and uncertainty. And yes, it's coming from a place of love, but it's not in service to the other person in as much as you believe it is. And so there's no right or wrong. Things can be cured through communication and time. But I will say this emphatically, please give people space to express themselves, because when they go from being high energy people to dropping down to below the threshold, they no longer feel that they have any value to themselves and others. So they will say and express things in such a way where they feel that their value has been completely displaced and that they don't have any value in this world. And it's not the truth. It's not the truth.
But they're trying to find it, Chuck, because this is what I also believe. Because again, I think you and I have walked this line a few times in our life, if we're going to be honest, right? And I think what it is that you and I know that our brain will never lie to us.
Correct.
So in that moment, and it could be anything to trigger us. And we're talking to all the listeners out there, because if I'm saying it's happened to me and Chuck, it can happen to you too, right? You're living this life, you feel great, you love giving, no matter what you do. You could be on Wall Street and you love doing what you do, and then you hit that wall, right?
Yes.
It's like, so your brain doesn't want to lie to you. So when you get that little seed of doubt of I'm not good enough, I don't serve anybody, I'm useless, I don't give any value, I create more problems than I solve, my brain is going to find every reason why that's true. So
absolutely.
when you're coming to me and telling me, no, you don't understand, no. My brain is telling me I got to shut you out because you're trying to make my brain lie to me now. And my brain wants to tell me the truth. So I'm going to find every evidence in my model of the world to find out. Now, I may grab things that happened 10 years ago.
Sure.
Right? To prove that I'm not any good. And look at me. I used to smoke and I used to drink and I used to be at the bars and I'm not a good mom. And I can go on and on and on. Now that has not been me for 15 years, but I'm going to pull it out because my brain needs evidence that I have no value. I bring no value to, the coaching instructor that I am. I bring no value to the mentor strategist that I am. I bring no value to being a mom. I bring no value to being a trainer in some organization. Like I bring no value because my brain wants to believe that in that moment.
Yes.
So here's another solution. Because like what you said, first ask that person, what do you need? And when they tell you, don't second guess it. Because when you second guess it, you're fearing, oh my God, what if they go out and do this? I mean, okay, then they do. You couldn't have prevented it anyway. You can't sit here and take the responsibility of what that person's going to do. You could try to protect them. I mean, I would, as a friend, I would do everything I can to protect my friend.
Absolutely.
I'll ask for forgiveness later. And yet, at the same time, I would first ask my friend or my partner or my kid, what do you need right now?
Yes.
And what does that look like? And tell me how you'll be safe.
And there's a follow-up to that. How can I help support you?
Yes.
Because here's the ticket.
Magic words.
They're like going, wait, what? Well, you need to leave right now. I don't feel great about that, but how can I help support you? And they may even respond, well, why? Because just so I know you're safe. Just so I know that you're having your time in processing the way that you need to, and I want to honor you. So how can I help best support you?
Right.
Because now it's specific, and it's not coming from a place of I'm stopping you, I'm judging you, you're wrong, why are you doing this? Because the last thing someone who, when they're in a use power state, they want to be questioned with 50 questions about everything that's going on. And there's 3 simple questions that you can ask yourself when you find yourself getting triggered in this state. And I know in the past I've done this, and I'm just going to be very honest with you. It depends on where you're at as far as your level of disempowerment in that moment. Because sometimes you do need intervention. Sometimes you need a reality slap, and it's like, hello, why? Because at that moment, you've gone so deep into the dark side that you don't see any light. It's perpetual dark. And you're groping around looking for straws. To your point, Veenu, you will manifest. And it's amazing how the recall system works. Because now that the reticular activation system, when you start to look at everything that's going on, you will start to find whatever references you need. You can go back 20, 30, 40 years when you were a little kid. But if you ask yourself these 3 questions, you may find that it snaps you out of it faster. The first one is how are you feeling in this moment? Right now. Not 10 minutes ago, not half an hour from now. How are you feeling right now at this moment? And being 100% honest with yourself. Because if you're lying to yourself and you're placating, then all you're going to get is that conditioned response.
Right.
And you'll find a resource to talk yourself out of it. But here's where it really gets real. What does this mean right now? Not why am I feeling so, what does this mean right now? Because whatever that meaning is that you're giving to it is your reality at that moment. Good, bad, and different. And you may say it out loud to yourself and go, that is freaking ridiculous. That is like so silly. That is like, really, dude? Like that just came out of your mouth? Are you kidding me? And then the follow-up is, of course, a natural one is, how would I like to feel instead?
Right.
In that moment, when you don't appreciate yourself, there's no amount of exterior appreciation someone can even impart or give to you or even try and levy to you and say, you know what, you're amazing. You just don't see what I see. You're right. You know what? And at that point, I don't give a flip what you see because what I see disgusts me in that moment. And it's like, oh, wow, that's a pretty harsh simulation of self and observation. I go, well, what if it didn't need to be?
Right.
What if that in how can I help support you? You found that, wow, even in spite of me feeling this way, there's someone that cares.
And that's what I was going to say, because when you said that, I'm like, that's the turnaround. Like you and I always talk about the turnaround, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when we believe that this is true, and then we ask ourselves, where's the evidence that this is true? And we're like, well, I can't find it. So then ask the opposite question, the turnaround.
Yes.
Right. Oh, wait, that's my truth. That's the turnaround for somebody that's stuck. So I want to go in because we have, just about 12 more minutes left. Can you believe it? Like we're running out of time already. But I really want to go to strategy. And this is a great way to segue to strategy, right? So when you see someone in that lowest point, whether it's because of imposter syndrome or anything, but when they're that victimhood, when you ask somebody, how can I support you in their lowest moment, they're going to definitely say, okay, you can't support me now, but they're going to put that in their mind that they're worth someone asking.
Yes.
And that's giving them an inkling of worth. Because in that moment, I promise you, as someone who's been there is no worth in that moment.
No.
But when you ask me and you're calling me and you're like, Veenu, I'm your brother. I see you. I appreciate you. And I know you can't see it right now, but I just want you to know I'm there to support you. And I'm not going to let you go because I support you. And then let it go in a sense of let them have that moment to feel that. That's the turnaround. It's like, wait, it's disgusting as I feel right now. And I know I can't look at me. She's not asking me to look at me. She's not asking me to see all the greatness I did. All he's asking me to do is hear him and know that he's there to support me. Wow. Holy cow.
Oh, it shifts everything. And when we can help move someone towards a possibility.
Yes.
Like, hey, have you eaten anything? Have you had something to drink? How's your energy level?
Take a shower. Like change the physiology of the water on you.
Oh, I mean, wash your hair, scrub your body, soak in a bath, a shallow bath. Because see, and that's the other part. It's like if you can get someone to laugh even for a moment, you're like going, "Hey, is there a hot tub near you?" Mm-hmm. Half full, half full. And so, but the great part about it is that they're like going, "Oh, I see where you're going," but yet it breaks their state for just a moment. Because if you can get them to even smile, if you can get them to cry, I know that sounds crazy, but
any other emotion.
It's any emotion that they can link to. Physiology first. We'll say, hey, drink something. Stay hydrated. Have you had anything? Oh, wow. Okay. And if you see someone on a Zoom call and you're like going, and they look distant, it's like, do you have a headache right now? Yeah, I'm feeling some head pressure. Okay, is it possible that you could breathe in me for a second? Be the example.
Right.
Because here's the deal. If you adopt an ideology of we and not me, I want you to do this. Whoa, time out. What if we were to breathe together for a moment?
Right. But here's the thing, and I think that this is true, Chuck, because a lot we grow up in a world that there's no I in team, right?
Right.
It, it's a we, not a me. And here you and I are saying it's not a we right now, it's a me, right? Like you got to think of that one person. Don't think of your, it's not we are going to do this. It's what does he need right now? What does that one person need? And I know for some it's hard because you're like, I mean, how do I think about myself like that? Like, what do you mean I got to think about me? Like, I want to keep giving. Well, that's what got you into this first place is that you
Yes.
give, and you forgot to receive. You forgot to give someone else an opportunity to give back to you. That's what you did.
And here's the thing about that, and you're creating a great point. When we're a giver, it's all about me giving. When we're a receiver, it's an exchange, we're matching, and it's a we scenario. So the challenge becomes is that one of the reasons why we get in that place of disempowerment is because we broke our own cardinal rule. We changed the dynamics where in our pursuit or in our persona or in our mindset, if we gave enough and we contributed enough, the universe and my karmic bank would be full and I'd be filling back up. And I go, there's only one challenge with it. A meal is only a meal if you eat it. And so if it's sitting in front of you and this beautiful, smorgasbord and you're not partaking of any of it, you're not sampling life, you're not filling back up, then at some point in time, it goes rancid. At some point in time, it's no longer nutrition and food, it's garbage. And so we get to understand that timing is important in that filling back up when you get to, not when you have to. When you get to. We do this for our children. We do this for our loved ones. We do this for our clients. We give because we feel that the value proposition is that when we do so, that we're actually elevating ourselves and we actually have self-value and worth. And yet we will forego self in order to feed others and then sacrifice ourselves. And it's like, okay, if the oxygen tank is empty, how do you give oxygen to anybody else?
Right. It's like airplane says, right? Put your own mask on first.
Well, and I remind people of this, if you have a scuba tank on and everyone else is breathing and you don't have a mask on, then you just become dead weight and everyone else has to go down with you in order to continue to breathe. Because you're no longer present. You are not in control of your faculties. So be careful to understand that self-care is not selfish. Please take nothing else from this conversation than this today. Self-care is imperative. You are an active participant in your own salvation and your capacity to be able to control, to influence your energy, your presence, where you're guiding your investment as far as time, energy, intention, heart, integrity, love, light, happiness, affects everyone around you.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And I just want to say, just to piggyback off that is, and one of our good friends, Lauren Nahab, always says this is aid in your own rescue. You got to aid in your own rescue. And here's another strategy also. First of all, talking to someone and trying to make sense and solve problems in that moment is like talking to someone drunk. They're not going to remember. They're not in the state of mind to. So it's not about solving anything in that moment. It's about caring. It's about caring. It's about modeling caring. It's about supporting. That's it. Don't discuss anything. Don't try to solve anything. Second, about imposter syndrome is what got you there in the beginning. Find out what's your measurement tool. If I think that I'm not doing a great job with my clients, if I think that I'm not adding value to my home, if I think that I'm not adding value to wherever I'm supposed to be in that moment, what am I measuring to compared to what? Steve Linder, one of our dear friends and mentors, he always says, compared to what? Compared to what? And that too can take someone out because the minute you're like, well, what do you like, Chuck? What are you comparing to? Well, I don't know. I just know. Well, how do you know?
And is it really real? Like, is that really the truth?
In the moment, like if I was working with you and I saw this, I'm already going to know that, first of all, you're talking nonsense. So you're not in a space to hear anything. And it's going to be more of like just changing your physiology, Go drink, go take, go take a bath, go do something that you can do right now to change your focus off of you, get it off of
Yes.
your problems, get it off of your measurement tool that's continuing to make you feel like you're not really that person. Then once you have done that, the next day or 2 days later or whenever, right? Whenever you are on the other side, and how do you know you're on the other side? Because you can look in the mirror again and you can really know your truth. That's when you start to ask yourself, what triggered me to begin this spiral? What triggered me
Mhm.
to say I'm not that person that people think I am? And what made me make people think me in that I was that in the first place? That was a tongue twister. But, what got me to that place?
Right.
Because we have to get to the cause instead of dealing with the symptom. When you've gone to victimhood, when you've gone to depletion, you are now at the symptoms. You're no longer at the cause. You
Absolutely.
got to get to the cause. And yeah, you got to deal with the symptoms to get us better, right? To get us back in our mindset. And once we are, what are you going to do to make that mindset sustainable so you never go back? So it is find the gift. I can tell you every time I have been in that victimhood, and I call it my pity party. Some people call it victimhood, and I call it victimhood for the sake of conversation because that's really what it is. Oh, poor me. And what oh, poor me, I'm looking for connection. I'm looking for support. I'm looking for anything that I can connect to because right now I don't know how to connect to anything.
Yeah, it's a cry for help.
It is. And yet, hear what that person needs and don't act like through your model of the world. And you said that perfectly. Is like, remember, it's their model of the world, not yours. Your fears can come later. Right now, what do they need? Do they need space? Do they need you just to sit with them and not talk? Do they need you just to, lay beside them and watch a movie with them? What do they need in that moment? Just because they need your presence. They don't need your words, because your words at that moment are going to be like the Peanuts teacher, wah, 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 right?
And their energy is as frenetic as yours in most instances. And so when that person's in that space and you've gone into freak out mode because you're so concerned, we have to be careful because that energy is attracting or repelling.
Right,
And for that person in that moment, they're not in their right state of mind and state of heart. So they're confused. And when we ask the question, so what do you need right now? Well, they don't know what they need. If they did, then they would be exercising that.
right,
So one of the things that's beautiful is you can say, I can see that you're not feeling your best self right now. Well, wow, that's really intuitive. How could you tell? Well, their eyes are down, they're breathing shallow, they got snot running out of their face, they look disheveled. You're like going, okay, so you're
they might
unhappy.
not be talking the same way they normally talk. They
You
might be
know,
like a little self-doubting themselves, just a little bit.
just a tad. You're like, oh, holy crap. And so one of the things that we can look at is to go, okay, would it be okay if I check back in with you in an hour?
Question. Yes.
Yeah,
EQ
why
is not critical.
how would a shower feel to you right now? I'll leave you alone. Go take some space. Why don't you rest? I'll close the blinds and you can have some quiet time. And if you're hungry, just let me know. I'd be happy to make you something, or I'll even have something for you in an hour. Oh, you're not hungry? That's okay too. So why don't you rest and let's see how you feel later.
Right.
And this way, there's no judgment.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Chuck, this has been so amazing. I think this has been a first great show for us. Thank you guys for joining in. I hope that you guys have found value because I know, you know, Chuck and I serve a lot of people all over the world. And sometimes, like he said, when we're high achievers, we're used to giving out, we're used to helping people see their blind spots. Sometimes we forget to see our own. Sometimes we forget to self care. Sometimes we forget to give ourselves self grace, grace
Mm,
for the mistakes we made, because it's through the mistakes we make we grow. There's no perfection, there's only progress.
absolutely.
So, thank you guys again for joining our show. This show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all our news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.